Oh, that's cool. That's nice having a screen like that.
Yeah.
Because then you don't.
So you should be going. What you need to do.
I need to refresh.
Yeah, you need to find your.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, and then I gotta click it and get the URL. Show the URL.
Yeah.
Copy it. Tweet it. And then I gotta get it up on here to see the comments.
I think it's cool you're doing this.
I think it's cool you're doing it.
It's cool. You're like the only other person we've ever met who's actually like, yeah, we do this, and we get the RTMP, and then we tweet it, and we get the comments.
Lamore's the founder of Adafruit, and she's on the camera showing the story all the time, and you're running the Media Lab and 80 other things, and you're telling the story. That's neat. Not a lot of people. Okay, you want to do this?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey.
Hey.
Hey. Wow.
And is it? Wait, did I properly send it to your page?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, look at us. Look at
Wow.
us looking at us.
Okay, let's look at us. Hey,
Hi.
everybody. I'm with Lamore and Phil.
Yeah. We're normally not this far apart. This is the first time.
I feel like an intruder.
Sandwich.
No, this is Jerry Sandwich. Actually, we had a similar interview 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You were at South by Southwest. That's when we had first met.
Yeah.
Really?
That's where we met.
Oh my God! So I was there at that moment, and I had a little plastic cup with a mic on it.
I could play the video later, but the night we met, we built a Frogger robot and put it in traffic until it got smashed. Yeah.
That's legendary.
That really happened.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been
It
pretty
really
much.
happened, but the cops can't prove it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, you should. There's a video. We did an event at Media Lab called Forbidden Research. And this year we had one of the students that was somewhat involved in putting the fire truck on the dome. And she went through kind of the whole thing of how she actually did it. And you just have to watch it. But what was amazing is they built it to code. So to withstand 90-mile-an-hour winds and all that. And
That's cool.
And they sent the code to the facilities guys, so they were able to leave it up for a few days.
Yeah.
Because they knew it was properly built. But pranks that are well executed are important for everything.
We made a TV Be Gone device with Mitch Altman, and that went to CES, and that kind of changed the landscape of CES for at least a day. All the TVs got turned off, and it just brought attention to the fact that the Consumer Electronics Show just turned into a TV show. It was just about flat screens when they came out. So yeah, we like things like that. We do hackery things.
Troublemaking.
You're best known for your wave bubble work at MIT, where Jay's at.
Yeah, that was part of my thesis. Was making cell phone jammers. That was fun. I wanted to learn how to build one, and at the same time taught other people how to do it. Made open source hardware. So that was.
Is that where you started the teaching of open stuff, or was that? How did that? Well, first of all, let's talk about you guys, because
sure.
Because I knew of you, I knew you when you were doing the crazy stuff with the Sony stuff.
Yeah,
and,
I worked in advertising for a company called Fallon.
Yeah,
and Sony was we were the agency of record, and we did things like the Curio robot stuff, and we built a gallery in Shanghai, all sorts of things.
You know, there's a rumor that Sony is making another robot.
Well, so I'm just going to make one request. I'm going to make some requests during this, but here's one request. If Sony kills off something, can they open source it? Because the Curio robots and the humanoid robots that are out there, and I've written about this on Make back in my other life. That would be great if they also.
I did actually send that whole multi-page recommendation to Sony that you gave me when I joined the board.
Oh
to the CEO,
yeah. I think I mentioned the buy Dropbox.
Yeah.
Woo.
But so you were like two things happening, and then I met you at South by, and I was already sort of fans, and then you together created this other thing, and then I visited here.
You visited when this was all under construction.
Yeah, we were just starting here. And it's still this kind of secret fortress.
Yeah, right? I mean, like I think throughout the years, I had a couple slides. Like this is all of Adafruit, like 12 years ago. This was in Lamore's tiny apartment, and then
that was me prepping for the first Maker Faire.
Yeah, and then Bunny. Bunny's currently suing the government. That's pretty cool. We got a pick and place machine for our apartment, and that was all of Adafruit. And then you visited when we were doing construction on one of the floors here, and then we were able to get this pick and place machine later.
And I loved what magazine or something you were in front of it saying your favorite gadget.
Was it Engadget? Was it?
Well,
Life hacker?
there was a few. So here's
I
a
don't remember.
funny story. We get emails from journalists, and they're like, "What's your favorite gadget?" And they want like an iPhone.
Yeah.
Lamar doesn't have a cell phone, so
Yeah.
she's like a Samsung SM pick and place machine that does.
I use that slide a lot.
Yeah. What is your current favorite gadget right now?
I really still do like the SM482 pick and place. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it is so fast, and it's so precise, and it's a great value.
Yeah, we've got. It's funny.
Selective solder machine it's more gadgety.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean-
it's gadgety-est.
Yeah, we took a
item.
360 video the other day of the setup here, so you can't really see it here because it just goes back kind of forever. But this is a 360 video that anyone can wear the Google Cardboard stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
and they can meet some of the folks who run the equipment here.
And where's that 360?
It's on YouTube. It's on
Okay.
YouTube. And
Yeah.
Before you go, maybe we can do a 360
that'd be
video.
fun,
But yeah, we've just grown the company to a manufacturing company in New York.
So can I throw a difficult question at you right now?
There's no difficult questions, only
the-
difficult answers.
because I spent some time in Shenzhen with Bunny, and
Yeah.
he showed me around, and I developed this kind of image that it was kind of like the Silicon Valley of hardware, and
Yeah.
and we've been sending students there, and it's just completely different when you go into a factory, especially if you have Bunny with you. So anything you want, they never say no.
No,
They're
they'll never say
well, we can probably get that guy to do it, and I know an uncle, and there's always volume of everything. And so for me, and then you just see like SMTs like being shuttled around on little vans and stuff. And so for me, like the idea of how can the Media Lab get closer to Shenzhen? How do we understand that ecosystem? That's been like a really big part of what I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
But then here are you guys in New York with everything you need, mostly here. And I've always had difficulty reconciling whether, built in New York at Adafruit and built in Shenzhen with factories and my students, and how those things connect. Do you know what I mean?
I think that it's the difference between fast food and making a meal yourself. Like here, we know all the ingredients, we know exactly what goes into the process. We design for manufacture, whereas when you go to Shenzhen, you can get like 5,000 hamburgers, and they'll always say yes, which is wonderful. But one of the things I liked about reviewing Bunny's book, because he wrote this book about Shenzhen. It's a point and look translation book as well, is you get what you pay for, and you don't know what you're getting until you've gotten it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like you go there and you like sometimes like you'll go to like a place and you're like, oh, like I want a grilled cheese, but what you get is like not what your imagination is of a grilled cheese.
Yes.
Whereas here it's like whatever I put into the pick and place, whatever we design is exactly what we want.
Right.
And so having that control for creating the kind of quality and good experience that we want is much better than, I think like we did a video, we talked about how if you go to Shenzhen, you say, well, I want a tablet. I want to have a tablet for some project, and they're like, okay, I can get you a tablet for like $100 or whatever.
What percentage of them do you need to work?
Yeah, like what percentage do you want them to work? And it's like you're going to find out they're like 640 by 40 resolution. They only run Android 3.1.
Right.
Like you can't upgrade them. There's like 1 megabyte of file. It's like you're going to get anything you want, but you have to know what you want.
Right.
And I think when I see people go to Shenzhen, the issue is they have this image, but it's not. There's a mismatch.
It's like this platonic image of what a capacitor is, right?
Exactly.
And what
Exactly.
Bunny showed us, which was he was creating, which is so cool, was like a design tool, but you had to specify which factory, what tolerance, what material.
You say I did a project with Raffle, who did the Topobo. And we worked on the circuit board to get it made in Shenzhen, the little rope inside the little robotics elements. And we designed a buck converter that would take the power in and convert it to the servo. And so I specified it, and what's funny is I specified inductor, and I just specified 10 microhenries or something. This is like a decade ago, so I don't remember the details. We sent it out, and they replaced it with the cheapest inductor they could get, which was like so skinny that I looked at it and I was like, they never plugged this in, because if they plugged it in, it would catch on fire. Right. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah, watch. And we plugged it in, and it just went like poof.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't do a good enough job because I had never experienced working with the Shenzhen factory
right.
to say like, oh my God, you have to specify everything, which is why for beginners, Shenzhen is the most dangerous. because you'll get 10,000 and it turns out it's not what you
Yeah,
want.
I have a maybe more on the business side of why it makes sense, because we're in New York, we're in Soho.
Yep.
This seems insane. Why in the world would we ever have a factory in Soho? Well, if you look at what Adafruit does, we are a rapid prototype manufacturer. We'll do short runs of 3,000 different products. And so Lady Ada sits 15 feet from the pick and place machine.
Yep.
So she's able to do designs, get 200 out, do iterations, and then we're on to the next thing. So we have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Internet of Things radios. And if you're a single serving company, like a lot of Kickstarters are, or it seems like the pressure for students to be designers for one thing, I'm going to make this amazing Apple thing with the shiny box, they probably are stuck with Shenzhen because you have to wait so long. So here's a video of a tester that we have. So we do the testing right here. This is something that would take, you'd have to go to Shenzhen, you'd get something sent back, you would send a prototype, you do this. A year goes by, your Kickstarter backers are pissed. Your investors, you've invested in hardware companies, they usually don't work out because they're hardware companies. And so what we figured out is we got really good at manufacturing small scale, and now we can do it larger scale, but eventually it's a global marketplace. We still will do stuff in Shenzhen too.
And by the way, just for people who aren't electronics nerds, I mean, testers are so important. Bunny
They're so important.
No one talks about them.
Nobody talks about them.
So because Bunny's whole thing is teaching people how to make testers, and
It's
one of
so
the things they
important.
did was they went to buy these memories like SD cards or something, and they're mostly don't work, and they said, well, we want to test everything. And so you have to lend us your tester to test your units because they promised they were a certain yield. They go back to the hotel room and then they copy it.
Yeah.
And then and what happens is once you have a tester, then you can go and negotiate really crappy SD cards and test them and return the bad ones.
I spend all my time working on testers, and when I make a mistake with a tester, that's when I get burned.
But that's
in
where
fact,
a lot
if you
of
look
the
back
costs
here,
are,
this is all testers.
Yeah, these
all
are
testers,
testing.
all automated testers.
This
We use
is the
Raspberry
tester
Pis,
bin
we
over
use
here.
everything.
You can see every
Yep.
product has a tester.
I do have
too.
a wide angle shot too.
Yeah.
Woo!
Okay.
Testers farther than the eye can see.
So it's
and some puppets.
It's almost all test jigs, because if you do a good job with the testers, they can't sneak in, because once you outsource something, even if you specify parts, you can't tell by looking at capacitor whether it's like a 5% or 10%. Actually, you can't tell physically. You have to just trust that they bought what you said they would buy, which is partly you have to have trust with the factory owner and the purchaser. But if you have a good tester, you will be able to catch flaws. One thing I have noticed is if you do get bad yield, I've never had a factory not say, okay, yeah, you're right, haha, tried but didn't work out. There's no animosity. It's not like, how dare you accuse me? They're like, oh yeah, we just had some bad ones. I'll get you new ones.
And you're like a sucker if you didn't specify it, or you're a sucker if you don't have a tester.
It's not that you're a sucker. They're just like, dude,
it's the way you do it, right?
It's not like a ripping off. And people are like, oh, I got ripped off. I'm like, no, you didn't get ripped off. It's just
you weren't specific enough.
And we ordered tablets for this funny thing where we had an advisory board meeting, and I sent everybody a tablet with a video recorded message that was kind of like, your mission if you wish to. And I talked to Bunny, and I was like, I need a tablet. He says, okay, if it's a disposable tablet that you want, we got to get the cheapest tablet that will actually work. He said, this company's tablets will have about a 70%, I'll make it up, like 3 in 10 won't work. So we should order this many. And then we'll test them, and then we'll do. And that
it's like ordering hoverboards.
Absolutely.
They're like, well, 30% don't work and they blow up, but some of them go.
But net, if you can test them, it's actually cheaper to do that than buying iPads, right?
But if you were a product company and you were sending these to customers,
that's right.
That's where you get screwed. And so it's what people don't know that bites them. Like, I do so much business with Shenzhen that at this point, after a decade, I know how to specify cables. But it took me years to learn how to specify cables. So, and then now we have the QA process, in-house as well to make sure. And we have a QA process in Shenzhen. We have somebody do the QA on the factory.
So you use Shenzhen though,
absolutely,
right? So you're kind of the
we're just 10 years ahead
to how that system works for people here.
The thing that I would say is Shenzhen isn't a start. It's part of the journey of manufacturing electronics, and the tools are so good, and you can do so many things here to get started. That's your test. If you can thrive here for a little bit with the things that are available, then go to Shenzhen. Starting there, it might not be a good idea.
Right.
Yeah,
although what I found is having the students go and spend a couple months on the factory floors.
Yeah,
sure.
they should know what
back,
they're. Yeah,
then
yeah.
they can kind of imagine.
Then they can design for manufacturing.
Right,
Like we design for manufacturing that's 20 feet away.
And just watching people fail on like specification of cables.
Yeah,
and
like I
stuff
had
that.
like OLED, like I've got OLEDs. You can't get OLEDs in America. You have to get them from Shenzhen. Everything was great for the first year, and then we had some OLEDs that had like a missing pixel, and I was like, oh, you know what? My tester doesn't turn on every pixel. It displays like a test message, but doesn't flash every pixel on. So like I changed the tester. Now every pixel gets turned on. We returned all the bad ones, and then after that, the company no longer sent me ones with bad pixels.
The equipment that we have is what you just never get a chance to see in the factories. Like Samsung makes 1 billion phones. We buy the machines that Samsung makes to make our stuff.
Can I also jump to another tangential hard question?
Yeah.
Because I asked a similar question to the last 6 conversations I've had, which is the short version is I think that as AI and machines and corporations become more and more efficient, and our metric, our fitness function is money. So like the great article was there's an office that takes care of looking up gun serial numbers and people. And it's boxes and boxes of paper. And
Mark, tell me about this story.
Right? So one of the things is we had a meeting this weekend talking about cybernetics and redesigning processes and social systems, and then somebody brought it up and they said, well, I said, but the problem is if you look at that problem, it's not that they don't know they should have a relation database. It's that the NRA funded a law that prevents the use of computers.
Yeah, it's not a technology problem.
Right? And then if you think about the NRA, or if you think about the facts that taxes are now determined by lobbying of companies, so the tax office is in service of the companies, not the other way around, right? So if you think about these big systems that we have that get bigger and bigger, they become resistant to most types of attacks. So I think of them as these cancerous, very complex super intelligences. When you throw AI in, it'll get even stronger. So and the problem.
So making the DMV self-aware is not a good idea.
well, when
right?
Because I'm studying evolution right now, and in evolution you have an environment and then you have a fitness function, and if the fitness function is fundamentally around money, where that's the most fungible source of free energy, everything starts to kind of evolve that way. And what's happening right now, I feel like, is a lot of the systems that we've created now are, and this is Lessig's thing too, right? Like politics is about money, and so even though you can imagine how politics might work, you can't actually implement it because it's now resistant to tampering by citizens or by Lessig or anybody else.
Yeah.
So all of that saying, so how do you hack the system? You have to hack the system by changing people's values, because it's all the fact that everybody measures each other by money that causes these systems to get the energy that they have. Okay, now.
Can I just point out one totally obvious counterexample?
Yeah.
Which is how Uber was a completely legislative hack.
Well, so Uber is a good example. So Uber is
there's policy, and they hacked through the policy.
Right, but Uber. Do you think Uber, when it gets big and huge, is going to care about the drivers? Is it? It's Uber's yet another.
No, but nobody cares about the drivers.
Right, but if I'm like the Parisians do, I guess my point is that Uber is just another cancer that is overtaking some of the older systems.
You think that's just part of policy? It is actually a policy weapon, not a policy hack.
Well, I think what's happening is we're creating an environment that allows these emergent things like Google or whatever that get created, that are sort of governed around the formation of more power and money. Yeah. And what happens is that what you used to have as controls, antitrust and all these other tools, but they're being kind of usurped by this thing. And it ties back to you guys, because I remember going to a tempura shop in Japan, and it's my favorite place, and it has two rooms, and it's run by mom and pop and 2 kids, and they're awesome. I said, why don't you open another store? They said, well, we own this building. We love our customers.
Yeah.
We eat our own tempura every day.
Yeah.
Why? They're like, why would we do that?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, yeah, you've got a wonderful life.
Yeah.
Why would they ever want more? And they were like, more than enough is way too much. And then this.
There's also your assumption that they would be able to run. They might be that they're too tired to run two
right.
restaurants.
But I think it's like there's a Silicon Valley sort of cliche, but that doesn't scale.
Yeah, scaling obsession.
So we've been hearing this forever. Adafruit won't scale. Well, we're now a $50 million company in 1 year. We're over 100 people. We have 50,000 square feet. It looks like we've been scaling pretty good.
So that was my question, long-winded question was, what is your relationship to scale? Because like you haven't taken outside money. You're not scaling.
No
for the
loans,
sake
no
of
venture capital at all
no
whatsoever.
Venture capital, which I find is amazing, right? And so, like, do you want to scale? Is that the point?
We are scaling. I mean,
we are scaling, but is it a scaling a byproduct of something else, or is that what
Well,
you're trying to do?
I want to skip around a couple things what you said.
Okay.
The first one is, so we manufacture all the Arduinos in the US. So we are a large-scale manufacturer. We probably create the most educational electronics for at least the US, maybe even the world soon. So I think that we could say, like, depending on how you compare us with other manufacturers, we scaled. But to reel it back to something that you said, I think that people like you at a place like MIT is our best shot at instilling values in the people that are going to build the systems.
Yeah, like why doesn't MIT scale?
And well,
we don't. So
exactly.
So because we have a rule that we don't have more than 1,000 faculty. That's actually a rule. And so by making that a rule, you force it to increase in quality and not quantity.
Well,
or at least that's the theory.
I'll mention a few things like, you ran Creative Commons, Lessing. Now you're influencing the scientists and engineers that are going to make all this stuff. So if they're in the Media Lab, are they going to make a robot that shoots guns, or are they going to make an art robot? Probably an art robot if you're around. So I think that there's opportunities for leadership within certain things. So Adafruit, to get it back to us, we're showing that it's possible to have a good business, to be open source, so open source software, hardware, that's what we'll always do. And will we be $1 billion open source hardware company? It looks like it's going that way. So I think you just have to find people that are willing to hold on to some values very, very strong, and then let some stuff go. It seems like venture capital and loans and being in that cycle that you were talking about just encourages so many things.
So I guess it's what's at the service of what, right? If you've got business and scale at the service of your values, then that's good.
So do you think we're scaling?
And we're scaling. I mean, we're scaling at an organic and maintainable rate, which to me is more important than, because if the whole point of Adafruit is to provide open source hardware and good education and all this information, like if we scale too fast, the quality will drop. Right. It is not. I don't believe it's. I haven't seen any evidence that it's possible to scale very good education at the same rate as like a Dropbox. It's like it's a different kind of company. We have to reach individual people and slowly build up this university of knowledge. So I think it can scale. It's like we've been doing this for 10 years. We're at this point.
Yeah, everyone at Adafruit who works here, they all have the same 401k. There's no different levels of people. There's no hierarchy with the benefits that we provide. We do things like paid time off for charity. So Limor and I, as people who run a company, we couldn't ruin this. Like, I think that's one of the things too. Like, everyone looks at the leaders. So how many times are we going to hear a leader of a company is just doing terrible things? It's a DNA of the company.
Clinton interview where she said she interviewed all these CEOs and asked them whether they do make decisions that hurt the company in the long run because they're worried about short-term shareholder response. He said all of them said that. So that's kind of you would never do that.
Yeah. We always do the best thing for the long term, and hopefully in the short term too. But it's like we're here for the long run. We have to maintain this.
We've been approached to get purchased recently. Investment yesterday. And this is a cycle where it seems like that would be a huge distraction from our core values.
And a lot of reasons why people take money. I mean, like, for instance, when we were doing blogging, no one took money until somebody took money. And then they all take money because you have competition, right? And then I love George Church, who's one of my favorite gurus these days. And he always says, well, if you're competing, what you're doing isn't interesting, right? I mean, just sort of by definition. So I'd be curious, do you have competitors?
Well, we're always underestimated and obscure until we're number one. We get ignored a lot. We've been doing live broadcasting for years now. There's a lot of live broadcasting. I would say we did have competitors that were closely linked to us, that were doing similar things, but we veered off. We tell stories. We do kids videos.
So how much of your brain is involved in teaching and communication versus sort of making products? And
I mean, it really is like about half of what I do. Like, they are in the service of each other. I do remember, I took Midas class, and he said, there's this push and pull between like form and function, right? Form and function. He always said, like, well, you should do both. I was like, oh yeah, good point. You should do both. So for me, it's like there's there's the function, it's like the technology, the circuit board itself, what voltage regulator, what op amp, how to configure the microcontroller, all that good stuff. And then there's the form, which is how do I use that as a way of reaching my goals of teaching people about electronics. And we don't always get it 100%. Like some things are like, try this thing. Turned out that's not what that's not what people wanted to do. But I think that we are slowly but surely getting better at what we do is compete with ourselves. Like that's what I do. Is I always think
Lamar makes products that compete with our own products, and we put our other product out of business.
How many products do you have?
3,000.
We have like 3,200 individual SKUs, like individual items.
See,
and about
this is good because I use.
I guess we'll say scale.
I say 1,500, but now it's 3,000.
Since actually the last time you emailed me, we have double the number of products.
Wow. It's 3,000.
So when you asked, that was the number, and now it's doubled since then.
But like to make all of them be really good, I mean, like all of them are really good. Like it would take a lot of effort. Like I test every single sample. Like that's my sample shelf over there, and I get all these wires and cables and tools and solder paste and all that stuff and whatever, like LEDs, and I test them all to make sure that they're good and the best. But what's neat is I see what people are doing in the community. We do these live broadcasts and people show us what they're doing. And sometimes people do things, or we'll see things, and it's funny. It's like, you get that, when you're a business owner, you see things and you get that fear of like, oh my God, if this catches on, like I'm screwed. And then instead of like being afraid, I'm like, oh wait, no, I'll just do that. And so what we do is, I'm already designing things that if people who are longtime customers are like, well, why should I get anything else that you built before when you made something so much better? And I'm like, that's the point. So we like to discontinue old products and come out with new things. The companies that I see that stagnate are the ones that they don't compete with themselves very well, and they get afraid. They actually see something and they're so scared of it they ignore it. And they're like, I know, I'll just pretend that this better solution, this better product doesn't exist, instead of taking it in and.
They
just
also don't document what they do. So that's maybe
that's
our secret. Maybe that's our secret sauce that we're hoping everyone adopts. So there's a video every single week about what Lamar is making. And then there's a video of all the new products. And then there's a learning guide that goes with the product. So I've stole this from like 5 different people said in different ways, but good information is advertising. So Lamar by definition is making advertising and marketing because we're just showing our work. And because you do open source, people can see the code, they can inspect the files. So I feel like the goal of the company a lot of times is just to put a camera on her or just get as much information that she has in her head out to every format possible.
And because we do manufacturing in-house, we're so fast that I can do I'm going to do a video broadcast tonight and be like, hey, here's what I'm working on. And I'm going to show circuit board designs that I'm working on, and just say, like, here's what I'm going to do. And most people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're telling what people, what products you're going to come out with in a couple months, because what if a competitor comes in and scoops you?
I think it paralyzed the competitors that we sort of had.
Yeah, nobody has the speed because I have the equipment right here. I can get something manufactured and in the store within 2 or 3 weeks. There's just no chance. There's no reason for me not to share what I'm doing, because there's no risk for me of a competitor coming in and scooping me. It's not possible. It doesn't happen.
I mean, there's this weird mental metaphor with like when blogging came out, and there used to be like content management systems with all these systems, and then we just blog, and then there was I'm now on the board of the New York Times, so I don't do this anymore, but I remember when we used to cheer when we used to take down the mainstream media or beat them,
they scooped them,
but now you've got like your whole supply chain is as fast as blogging, sort of. I mean, it just seems like and
very similar,
and this live video thing too, right? Because you guys were doing it forever.
We've been broadcasting every week for 8 years. The only live electronics broadcast.
Yeah,
that's it. It's us for 8 years.
And it's becoming a thing. I mean, like it was your thing, but now, like with Facebook Live, it's interesting. I mean, do you have any thoughts on where it's going, or if you're going to change anything?
Yeah, I mean, like if you look around what we're doing, so we have Periscope on a phone. We have a hardware device called Mevo. It's not turned on, but that's a 4K camera, and in hardware it's doing face recognition, and it has Wi-Fi built in, so it just can broadcast. It's getting easier and easier for the tools to be approachable by a wider variety of people, much like blogging made a lot of people writers that maybe didn't have the audience. So I think the cycle that we're going to see is YouTube stagnated for a bit. Facebook is adding features. Twitch came in. They have things like archived text and chat, and so YouTube is starting to do stuff. But the problem is the noise, and they need to get rid of some of the riffraff. So YouTube is already talking about, we have an algorithm that doesn't monetize some videos now because there's just not enough money to fuel all this stuff. So they have to be more selective. So I think that if you're a smart company that does anything, you do need to have a blog, you need to have a video series, you need to have a social media presence. If you don't, like, you're just kind of ignoring everything, and this always happens.
You know what? One thing I noticed is people listen to podcasts more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been around
It's
forever,
easier.
but now
It's
it's easier,
easier,
right?
yeah.
And so I've been like putting things into podcast format.
Yeah, we just all the stuff that we do goes into iTunes,
Okay.
and I think some of the physical devices like Apple TV has made it help, and then Apple sucks sometimes when a company forgets about something and then they're like, oh no, we should really do that. So podcasts were probably held back a bit by Apple, but now they're interested in it again. So I feel like you've always been there. Like, I remember talking about like how to do RSS enclosures in your IRC chat like 15 years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we haven't been doing that much stuff different.
Yeah, and I think the trick is to stay alive until it actually becomes a thing. Like finally VR is
That's
here.
Yeah.
It's like the third time. AI is finally back.
Okay, I can dust off my Second Life stuff again.
And my favorite is Bitcoin. Like because we set up one of the first Digicast servers, and we
Yeah.
sold music, and like back in the '90s, I thought
this is
that
it.
the digital cash was going to be like the big thing, and then Bitcoin came.
I
and, like,
remember it
like,
was,
wow.
yeah, everyone was working on like micropayments, and then they
Yeah.
figured out a way to do it.
Well, I mean, you do the show and tell every week, and that's our customers. What do you like about that? Because that's something that took off more than we expected. 'Cause-
I think what's really neat is, you know, you get to see like power users, you get people to see who are doing very advanced things, but you also get to see how kids are interacting with electronics, and it, you know, because they have such a different view of it that, you know, seeing young kids and they're like experts at this stuff. They are hacking the electronics that we get them, so they don't even use it in the way I expect. They're like, okay, I'm going to use this servo to make like a safe cracking device. Like it's not something we expect, and it's not even very good for what they're doing, but they just don't care, which I kind of like. I like seeing that freedom of creativity. So that's kind of cool.
It's also it's interesting. So 5 years for all of us isn't a lot of time, but these kids started coming on our show and tell at 15. Now they're 20 and applying for jobs, and we're hiring them.
Right.
Whoa,
That's
like
cool.
that's so weird. And actually, someone at a publication emailed us and said, "Why do you do the show and tell? You're not selling any products. It just looks like a bunch of random people showing stuff they made." And our response was, if you look at the people that are building some of the future platforms at Adafruit, that's how we met them. So putting Lady Ada in a plane all the time doesn't scale, but having everyone show her stuff and like kind of finding them in the matrix.
It would be
and
good
that's
if
what,
you guys came to MIT every once in a while. I know it. That's the thing.
we
I have
have
to come to the.
but we have HD. We have a Lady Ada hologram machine. I'll show it to you in a bit. We have a 360 camera.
I lost my Kerberos ticket, so I can't go back
Oh,
on
we'll give you
campus.
one of those. No, but yeah,
She could be engineering.
that's the thing. It's like you guys are like, ever since I met you, or ever since I came here, you like barely leave, right? Like you work.
It's only work if you'd rather be doing something
You know,
else.
we
Yeah,
do
that's
do
true.
other stuff. I mean, we definitely go to events, and like when we're speaking, we speak like every week, usually at a thing, usually remotely, but sometimes locally. We do events. I mean, a lot of stuff
Yeah.
comes here to New York,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
true.
pretty nice.
It is center of the universe for a lot of things, but then
What was the
like
last event we did at Talk At? I'm trying to remember.
last event we did talk at remotely or
No,
in
here in
person.
New York.
In New York,
The Google. We went to
you
the
did.
Google.
I think you did a talk at some Google event.
Yeah, we did a Women in Technology.
When's the
Yeah.
last time you were in Boston?
To see your folks.
It was a month ago.
Yeah, but it was only on a weekend. It was only on a weekend. It was only on a
It was
weekend.
a weekend. I was to visit
You gotta tell
family
us.
and some friends.
Okay. Next time you gotta tell.
Absolutely, I'll bring on this camera
Well,
equipment.
we went to the Open Source Hardware Talk. We
Yeah.
did a.
We're doing a talk at West Point, but we're doing it from here
Oh wow.
next
Cyber.
week, and we're going to try to influence them. So this kind of gets back to something you said before. Wouldn't it be neat if the West Point students had someone like Lamore to influence them about how they think about technology and decisions? I feel like you're a hacker that got put in some amazing places, and so we certainly can't say no to. This will be the second time we're doing a talk at West Point, and we want to broadcast it live. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And I think that's one of the things that we can do is show that you can be a great company, a great person, great values, and you can show your work. So one of the things that we say now is if Lamore does a talk or I do a talk, it has to be broadcast and available for everyone.
And I think, to answer my own question about money, is if you look at like the 60s, there was a moment where it wasn't all about the money. And if you think about...
for like 5 minutes in America.
and I think that if you think about what it was like the Beatles, it was Timothy Leary, it was drugs, it was Grateful Dead. It was a culture change. It wasn't somebody changing the rules. It wasn't it wasn't even entrepreneurship, right? So what I think is like, you've got to kind of infect the system, but it's through culture. And there's a quote that I can't find an attribution of who said it. So, but it's, I'd rather write the country's songs than the country's laws, because I think that's actually the dials that you turn. And I feel like what you're doing is you're creating a new movement around a way of thinking about stuff and the way you do stuff. And I think the thing about if you do the movement properly, I think that's really the only way you counteract some of this sort of cancerous growth that
I don't think that the style that Limor has with stuff is telling people how they're doing engineering is wrong. She just shows how much better it is that we're doing it open source along the way. Because the reality is, and you're part of Creative Commons, you really can't protect circuit boards. So you may as well get the word out about the learning. The physical bits you can't do anything about. You can get a patent, you can get a trademark, you can get copyright for the code, but the circuit board, this is why like phones are phones. Like a lot of it is just like, well, you look at a circuit board and you make your own. And so I think that when you show the value that open source brings, it is a form of advertising, it is a form of marketing that Limor does just automatically.
And as people who do this, one thing I wanted to ask you was, how broken is the intellectual property stuff around it, or have you figured out a way to deal with all the open hardware stuff?
I mean, we did the, we were on the original committee for open source hardware many years ago.
Yeah, the definition.
The definition, and we worked it out. And basically, the best thing that we came up with was, let's follow intent. And let's make intent clear, because as you've seen with Creative Commons and like this FedEx versus Microsoft or whatever, it's even something as clear as copyright is not really clear. Right. It can be very confusing, and that's why this stuff goes to court. So I think that what we do is we make it very clear what our intent is, and so we do put everything out under open source licenses when we release it. But moreover, we constantly explain what we find acceptable and what we don't. Like, when people say, "Oh, I'm doing a Kickstarter and I'm going to use your hardware," we say that's fine. It's share alike. You need to also, as part of your Kickstarter reward, release your design if it's a derivative of ours. We're not going to call the cops on you if you believe it. I'm not going to go through and say is it a derivative or is it not. If you believe it's a derivative, we're just trying to set up the social norms, because from working on the definition and talking to people, in various open source groups, they're basically like, it's intent that matters more than nitpicking about what each word in the license means. Because even open source software, it's based on well-known copyright law, and it's complete.
And that's often one of the ways I get artists to do Creative Commons is I say, showing an intent to share often gets the community on your side to protect you when somebody abuses you. Yeah. Whereas if you're saying all rights reserved and somebody steals your stuff, no one really helps you.
Right.
And there's also a community policing part too.
That is true.
Yeah, folks want a license that's going to protect them, but even when something is completely closed, it still gets cloned. So if you're going to do something, you should be clear why you're doing it. And for us, we realize that circuit boards will get copied, cloned, counterfeited, but the Adafruit name you can't use. And if you use our code, you can't take our names off of it and put your names on it instead.
In a way, and this we use at Creative Commons and also at Mozilla, trademark is actually the thing I'm really fussy about, right?
Yes.
Us too.
That's much easier to deal with.
We're super fussy about that. If you try to claim your Adafruit, we're going to stop you. But everything else is almost okay.
And speaking of, what's that?
Okay.
Oh, this is AdaBox.
Is it the overhead?
Yeah. We got this overhead. Might as well use it. So we just launched this last night, but all the people got their AdaBoxes. So we now have a maker subscription service. This went out to thousands of people, and they signed up, and then they got their AdaBoxes. It's a different one every quarter, meant for beginners. And unlike other subscription companies that are just subscription companies, we're not going broke with this. This is a profitable endeavor on the business side, but it's also the start of a series of beginner subscription services from us that teach electronics.
Yeah.
So you want to open it up?
Okay.
Do you want this, by the way? This is why we saved this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do. But I have like 3 cities before I go home, so I might.
We can
order
send it
one
to you.
online.
Well, you can't. You can't. I will save this for you and send it to you.
Okay.
So what's cool is like
you're hacking the system already.
There's actually a print shop in this building, and so we use them to
wow.
print the sleeve. And so this cutout, they like have a die cutting machine because we don't, we just don't have that machine. So we have this cool AdaBox cutout, and then each box comes with a list of what's included and URLs and all that good stuff, and it's blue, and so each one has its own color code. And then this is the packaging that we use for everything. This is our packaging, and it's funny, we order so many boxes that at this point it actually is less expensive for us to custom specify a box all black with Adafruit flour and a barcode for shipping.
Yeah, and if you go on Twitter right now, if you look for pound AdaBox, you can see all the kids that just got them. And that's the video that we did. Speaking of live video, we did a live unboxing last night of all this.
So we have this custom tissue paper, which has sort of like a Delft design. So you can see it's like a hand with a soldering iron, and then this beautiful. Awesome. I don't want to. Should I take it all apart, or you want to?
Yeah, it is. So.
Okay, I will not. I will put it back.
Oh, that was a nice move.
Put it back in the tissue. So you get basically, it's like it's a starter kit. It's for somebody's first electronics kit. They get all sorts of sensors and cables, and fully assembled. You get a collectible pin with a feather pin. So each AdaBox is going to have a different collectible, so that you can collect them. But then, you get a feather board, which is our family of Arduino compatible, breadboard friendly microcontrollers.
No soldering, low cost.
No soldering, it's just plug and play.
Just works.
And we have all these guides and tutorials that go with it. We have a good battery so you can take it around. And all of like the really high quality things like these cables that we get these made in Shenzhen, but it took us a really long time to get like perfect cables. So now we do.
Can I say one thing about soldering?
Yeah.
Because one of the SafeCast is this thing that I helped start.
Yeah,
and
they use our parts.
Yeah,
they use the GPS modules and more.
We found out that schools can't do them because they're not allowed to use soldering iron.
That's right.
Is that one of the reasons you did this?
Yep.
Yeah, we have 2 products that are built for educators, and we had to make sure that it was soldered in advance.
And it's crazy. And it was funny when I first started at MIT. The first email I sent to the mailing list was on a weekend. I said, "Does anybody have a soldering iron?" And because I needed to fix my Geiger counter, and a student sent me an email saying, "I think you're going to do okay here." Okay. And then now I joined all the undergraduate mailing lists just to kind of get a sense because I'm.
Are you on reuse?
Well, no, but I'm advising freshmen, and people are asking for stuff that I have, and I was like, wait a second, it's going to be kind of creepy if like I jump in and say, oh yeah, I have an Allen wrench.
Come see me.
So I asked one of the GRGs, and I said, do you think it'd be creepy if I started like chiming into undergraduate mailing lists? She goes, well, she said, let's make an opt-in mailing list that like you and the like faculty can do so that you don't like it doesn't feel like you're spying on kids. So, but
no, it is like a little. It's a social group and it's a culture.
Yeah.
But the idea of like tech shops and hacker spaces where you can go and get all this stuff. There's miters at MIT where all this stuff is available.
So this is targeted to kids who probably can't have a soldering iron.
This
at
is
school.
for anybody who wants to get started, and the idea behind it is you don't need anything other than what's in the box.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every
Each one's
AdaBox, and we have 4 that we're going to be doing over the course of a year, and we're designing them specifically so that it is completely all in one. You don't need anything else, and all of the tutorials are online. You don't even need a book because the software is free, the guides are online, videos are online, everything is.
And then you're going to be doing videos where you do stuff.
Yeah, we did one last night. So we did the unboxing and we showed all the stuff you can do.
We just showed a quick demo.
Yeah,
like how to
make a temperature sensor
and stuff. But like as we do each project, there will be every box will have projects and tutorials that go with it. And it's what's nice is a lot of these parts we already have tutorials. Like this is nothing new. We're just putting it in a good combination.
Object-oriented tutorial.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's like we already have a good guide for a temperature sensor. So we just make a little tweak to it and make it.
And then
friendly.
if folks are really interested, and you never know what's going to spark a kid or anyone on their journey of electronics. So this all hooks up into Adafruit.io. This is our Internet of Things service for makers. It's free. And it's meant to be. You're in the VC world. Sometimes everyone tried to make a data logging service like 10 times. So this is the only one that we know of that works with Arduino and Raspberry Pi, and BeagleBone, and it has MQTT, which is a neat protocol. And so you can hook up any of the things that we have in the subscription service to this data logging service. And then we also came up with a Internet of Things Bill of Rights, because we think that that's going to be the next frontier, where like you need a Creative Commons license for your data feed. Because
the
like
Bill of Rights is from the perspective of the hardware, or from the perspective of the hacker,
of the user.
Of the
user. Like, we think that people have the right to manage their data in a very specific way.
I get it.
And so we started this in 2013. Lamore contributed to an article in the New York Times, and we thought it would be good for the data to be portable. You know, every time Google sunsets a IoT device, everyone freaks out.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, like I have like 10 things that don't work anymore. And so we thought it'd be neat for us to start from the beginning. And these are the values that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Like, it'll be hard for someone to come along and ruin Adafruit, because this is, we said this is exactly what we believe.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the ways that we can help not have these giant cancerous entities is to have the DNA fixed.
Right.
We might not be able to fix it after the fact,
Yeah.
but maybe the beginning is where
and again, I think just as the Beatles were culture at one layer, this is culture at another layer, right?
Yeah.
Because this is something you buy into emotionally, and you say, I'm not going to buy anything unless it has this.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, the other thing is we all hang out together in different ways, and it'd be weird to be in an EFF party and be like, oh yeah, like we're the creeps that now own your data. Like, I think there's social.
That'd be so not cool.
Well, you know, I think there'd be social pressures. No, I think there'd be social pressures because we're supposed to be out there looking after each other and fighting for the rights that we want to have online. So that's one of the things that Lamore wanted to have as part of our data services.
And you know what's depressing right now is whenever I talk about like open web, and a lot of people are just like, you know, it's too late. You know, and it's just like they've given up, and I'm like, no, you're making it too late by giving up,
like we have our own, we have our own learning system and everything's open. Like, there's nothing on Adafruit where you have to register to get access to. We like purposefully fight against that. You know, you don't have to even be a customer to post in our forums or look at our stuff. You know, the only thing we require registration for is Adafruit.io, just because we have to have some user login.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't have to buy anything.
But we've been told it's too late for 10 years about electronics. Oh, it's too late. You know, everything's made in China. Okay, it's too late.
Nobody wants to take stuff apart.
It's too late. You need an NDA for every data sheet. Okay, it's too late. There's 5 companies that make all the dev boards. Okay. And what's nice is that we're a large purchaser of all these chips. The large companies are saying, what can we do to have Adafruit use these chips? And we say, well, you can't have NDAs, and you have to have some type of open code for it. And I think that we're starting to influence these larger chip manufacturers from the outside, because they just see the value. They're like, oh, like you'll get 2,000 people to use our thing. Like, oh, that's what we want.
And I can't speak on behalf of Sony, and I'm speaking as somebody who speaks at Sony sometimes, but I have been pushing, and I think people are listening more to the idea that these hardware companies need to be open, and
or parts of it,
more like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think there have been enough failures now that, you know, they may be slow, but they're trainable. And I think some of these companies you do see that used to be more traditionally closed starting to open up, And I think the problem with Shenzhen, the good stuff, there's a lot of good stuff, but they're not that good at standards and networks.
Everyone's just doing their own thing.
So I think that's kind of our role over here, is to, because
it's very copy and pasty. If there's something out there that does it, they'll just copy and paste it into whatever they're doing. So if there's a good open standard, they'll use it. But oftentimes it's just whatever. It's like whatever some engineer at some company came up with, and then they released it. And I see like this, you know, kind of crappy protocol gets copied and pasted around. It's just, you know, that's how you end up with like IoT devices that have like no password security and are just like, you know, just connected. Like, you know, if you know the MAC address, you can turn off somebody's lights. You know, stuff like that.
It's also when no one's going to look at it, people don't make it clean, and it's like like closed source. You can't open source because it's messy. I think the IoT stuff, a lot of people just assume no one would see it. But now people are looking at it, and hopefully that'll make
it's in their homes. It's in the most intimate places in the world. Don't you want to know some of the things that go into it? It seems like that's going to be a selling feature. Samsung CEO did an interesting thing. Of course, we took a snapshot of this, put it on our blog because we're going to follow up. He said, IoT is going to be open at Samsung. Okay, And so we're going to see as Samsung gets into this space.
That was 2 years ago. That was like
it's on our blog, yeah. And I think when they start to use open as a marketing term, then it's up to us to hold them to that standard, because we're held to a standard. If we don't release our code or files within like 10 minutes, people are like, oh, Adafruit's not open source anymore. It's like, no, like we're uploading it to GitHub right now. So I think that having that same emphasis on being open if you're going to say you're open, and not letting the larger companies get away with marketing the word open, unless they.
And that's the thing, is like everything gets usurped unless you are very diligent, you know. And open's already sort of organic and green and open, and we're losing like open source has just been taken over, and that's where Richard Stallman has.
I think we took Hacker back though.
We did. Well, you know what? So this is actually slightly off. Confidential, so I have to be.
You're
really
broadcasting
careful.
live on the internet.
I have to be careful about.
Like you're like 4 different ways we're broadcasting.
But there is a very wonderful person who works for a very powerful person who was able to get a policy changed to not be allowed to have that powerful person use Hacker in the negative anymore.
Okay.
I know who you're talking. I know this. Yeah, I think I do. Oh, wait till we're off camera.
But so there are these little wins that we're making, and I do think that partially it's hackathon. Kind of got hacking back, but that's fine. I mean, I think, but so there is progress, and I think we just have to keep fighting.
Yeah, I'm here. We're doing this.
Yeah, we're gonna. That's pretty much what we do.
And one thing that somebody pointed out was sticking to it in tenacity. Like why NRA is still successful and can't be beaten sometimes is that a lot of the attacks on NRA are just these momentary blurps. Whereas NRA has been saying the same thing for a long time with a lot of energy, and there's something to just keeping
showing up every day.
Yeah.
So we show up every single day. Just 3 years ago, I was walking around Lower Manhattan looking for postal bins, and most of the time they were filled with dog pee because that's what happens. Dogs would pee on them, and then I'd have to take the postal bins back. I'd have to clean them off, and then I would ship all the packages and put them in, and that was tough, but we did it every day. And now we have a shipping team of like 50 people. And we don't have to go get the postal bins. The Postal Service delivers the bins for us. So I think one of the things that we always tell some of the entrepreneurs is like, you'll have to wake up 5 a.m. for a while and you'll work really hard. But it's not going to be like that forever. You will be able to find good people, but you do have to let people know what you're doing. You have to tell your story. And there is a lot of fun when you're in that stage, because we were so ignored. No one cared what we did. And now like we know that the things that we do matter even more because we're broadcasting constantly. So we want to make sure that we always do the right thing, have the right values, and how can we help change other words like hacker or open what does it mean to be an engineer? Well, they can have pink hair and a lip ring and make wave bubble things that jam cell phones.
Well, we should increase the frequency of our interaction to more than once every 10 years.
Okay.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I'm a time traveler. I think when we're done, we'll just play it. Maybe we could play out this video. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you have anything else?
No, I think everything's going good. We'll be here.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
You've always helped us spiritually. We've never asked for money or anything because we haven't needed it. But I think every time that we've
spirit animal.
Well, I think it's just one of the things like
you're my spirit animal.
So. Well, it's like you're always.
Well, money's everybody's spirit animal.
I don't know what way to explain it, but like we're always idling in the same channel together, and I feel like there's orbits. And as technology changes and tools come along, we all run into each other.
And we have all the same gadgets. It turns out, even 10 years later.
No, there isn't anyone else I know who's like, oh yeah, Wirecast. Like, okay, well, how do you do the RMTV thing? And like, oh, I have Amiibo too. Yeah, me too. Yay.
We're still editing XML documents.
I know.
It's a secret. If you can edit XML files, you rule the web right now.
The world. Yeah, it's true.
Well, the web.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Cool.
Okay, I'm going to play out this video here. This is us 10 years ago.
All right.
So that's one example. But more like she builds kits and so.
Like, what do you do?
So my thing is that a year ago I started doing building. Oh, sorry. A year ago I started. Not only like doing electronics, I really like doing electronics, but I sort of decided like, oh, well, people are like, keep emailing me like, I really want to build your stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't because I only made one. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll make like a lot. And so I started kind of a small little business where I make kits, and my like big thing that I make is the synthesizer. And It's a clone of a really popular synthesizer that's actually not made anymore, called the TB303. It's got like all the knobs and buttons and a sequencer, and it was like a year-long project. 3 people worked really hard on it, and like when we just released I sell kits for like $150. You can buy all the parts, like $300 you can buy all the parts, and I send you a box and you build it, and you've got like basically this box almost exactly, and like you're ready to go. But then we released everything open source, like the firmware, the hardware, the software, the DXF files, the CAT files, everything. Like it's all like somebody actually made a clone of the clone, which is kind of funny.
So people are actually making that then.
So people are making my clone, but what was really cool is like not only did people actually make it, which was amazing that people actually built it, because like I'll just sit in a box somewhere. No, people actually, half the people who bought one built it, and then like because like musicians are kind of like. They're like the ham radio geeks of our generation. Like they're really into circuit bending, like you've heard about circuit bending, and they're like, oh, I wanna get in there, and like often it's like, well, I have a warranty, and it's like in this plastic box and it's heat sealed, and I can't get in there. But because they were already in there, and they debugged the whole thing, and they know which this is the VC. They don't have to reverse engineer anything. They have the schematics, the firmware. I made it like I put a USB port so you can upload firmware like super easy in the software. Like people started contributing. People were like, I found this bug in the MIDI code, so I just fixed it. Like I know that you'll fix it, but you're busy, so I just fix it for you. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then some guys like, oh, like I designed a new cool panel with like backlighting and stuff, and I'm going to sell it. And I was like, no problem. Like Creative Commons, go ahead. Like I don't care. Like make money off of it.
Right.
And then like some guy set up like a full documentation wiki and like did a really good job, and that was kind of creepy because who does documentation voluntarily? That was really weird. He's really cool, and like people started writing music with it, and like people like I have some pictures in my slides. Like people put more buttons and sliders, and they just went crazy because they're like, yeah, like I can't lose. This is like I can do whatever I want because it was like $300, which is like nothing in like music world. That's that's like a foot pedal is $300. So it's like if I break it, I'll just get another one, and it's like plastic, and it was just like. It was like a soft platform where there was no fear. There was no like it's not meant to start with, so there's no problem. So that was really cool to just see how within 1 year I had like this huge group of contributors, and there's a community, and like they really love it. They're like, I love my Xbox,
It's amazing. I'm so glad you exist.
Thank you. I'm glad I exist too. So that's basically what I'm going to talk about. Is just like this just. Totally, and we were like, maybe we'll sell 20. I'm gonna have 80 kits under my bed, and I'll never sell them. But it's been everyone loves it.
Wow. So the interesting thing from like my point of view, because I cover her stuff a lot, and I'm watching what's going on in this like kit building thing. Like a company could do this in a big way, and I think that if you look at this little mini case study of how she's doing this, so her customers are documenting the project, they're designing the product and making it better, and you're a team of one person doing this. Like you can scale because you're customers, not because you hire 50 more people. And so it's a neat model. Like everything might, imagine like if you can improve your car or whatever. Blizzard kind of gets it. World of Warcraft, you can make your own interface, and if it gets good enough, they just add it.
Right.
And so there's other examples where your customers are your engineers.
So it's kind of like this open source meme spilling over into everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In a way. I mean, it's
we're physical objects.
We're becoming comfortable with this idea of participating and doing stuff, and now everybody's like.
No, just forget the cup here. Maybe.
Okay.
I actually think because of where we're at with the internet and RSS and easy to connect with people and email and wikis and blogs and everything, we're actually at the point where it's so much better to involve your customers, and it's okay to make money at all this too.
Right.
Like you're not like you.
Yeah, they know
you charge
I make money.
Yeah, you charge
they know
money.
that I make money, but they're also like, they also kind of like, well, you don't make enough money. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
They're like.
Like people want to pay. People it's an odd thing. Humans like to pay money for a product or service, but it can still be open source. Like you can still have a great business.